Hi, welcome to Edward Box Guitar Tuition. So today's classic album inspection is one of my favourite albums of all time. It's UFO's Lights Out. It was released May the 7th, 1977. It's 45 years old today. So first time I got this album, I think, was from a shop for £2.99 in Preston, in the shopping centre there. Forget the name of it. I also bought Women and Children First there. Yeah, it's a great record. So it was recorded at Air Studios, which I think is the one owned by George Martin. In February and March 1977. This is the first time when they teamed up with Ron Neverson, and this is the album that made Ron Neverson's name, I think, as a producer. So what he did, he applied string arrangements to about 4 songs. That was tracks 2, 3, 6 and 8, and he does a brilliant job. He used a guy called Alan McMillan. Just look at my notes there. So these really add something to the album. I think Ron Neverson, I don't know if he'd done the Babies prior to this and they'd had string arrangements, or maybe the Babies copied this. Don't quote us on that. UFO were kind of coming off the No Heavy Petting album. It hadn't done as well as Force It, so there was a bit of pressure on them. But they had a kind of following and a bit of respect, particularly for Schenker's fret work. But they kind of needed to take things up a notch. And they certainly succeeded with this album. Had a great Hypnosis cover again, obviously with the cool UFO logo. Actually, it doesn't actually have the classic UFO logo. I think Schenk actually used a little pig nose amp for some of the solos on this. But I think what comes across this album is the layering. What Neverson's done, he's kind of got them to kind of bring in different parts, but find space for those different parts and harmonies and acoustic guitar and so on, and he's positioned them in the mix and in the sonic space to kind of build the songs more. It's a much more sophisticated recording than the 3 that come before it. So that's kind of what it stands out to me. It's not as heavy as No Heavy Petting is at times, or Obsession. So opening track is Too Hot to Handle. So this is a UFO classic. Comes in. You notice the guitars aren't that distorted on this. There's quite a cool left and right thing on it. One of the guitars is a little funky bit. I'm imagining Schenker tracks all his rhythm guitars. I doubt Paul Raymond would have tracked any rhythm, but maybe I'm wrong. This is 3 minutes 37. Great Schenker sort of neck pickup solo on this, and a great outro solo, making use of that high 22 fret bend on the high E that he does so well. This is written by Pete Way and Phil Mogg. So like Pete Way's writing style was to kind of do a kind of more direct sort of rock track, and yeah, it benefits from that. Phil Mogg's vocals are good, nice and cleanly recorded. The drums are punchy, and not as it hasn't got the Obsession Bonham sound, and it'd be nice to have a bigger drum sound like No Heavy Petting as well. But the drum sound's not that intrusive, and it adds to this kind of overall what's the word I'm looking for? Picture of the sound. Nothing. It doesn't favour any one instrument more than the other. It's got a nice balance. This record. It sounded great on the system before. Track 2. This is written by Paul Raymond and Phil Mogg. So originally this was credited to Pete Way for publishing reasons, to do with Paul Raymond's time in Savoy Brown, some legal thing. But it's just another suicide. It's one of my favourite tracks on the album. This is superb. Great strings on this. Great Raymond keyboard playing. Great lyrics, superb guitar work by Schenker. It just oozes quality, this track. There's no band in the world doing a song like this at this point. It's quintessentially British in sound, but feels like it could travel, transatlantic. And that, I should say, this album number 23 on the US charts. It is UFO's biggest album, 54 in the UK. I don't know why it's never been a certification for it. There must be gold by now. To make number 23, you'd have to be selling over 300,000 albums at that time, I think 350. So with back catalogue and so on, streaming. But UFO, a notoriously disorganised organisation then and now, well, maybe not now, but they should try and track down some of these discs that they deserve. Anyway, next track is Try Me, classic ballad, 4 minutes 49. So I think Ron Neverson sort of helped the band piece this together. When I was reading Martin Popoff's book recently, often Schenker would have riffs, but it wouldn't be arranged in the kind of verse, bridge, chorus structure. It's like, here's a piece of music I've got, and I think Try Me, he'd done the kind of harmony guitar part on his little, forget what his tape player was, it's probably reel to reel, that he used for demoing. I think sort of Nevison was like, okay, well, we could take that and put it with this, or why doesn't, someone write something with this? And then Phil Mogg did his lyrics and so on. It's a beautiful ballad with a kind of twin part guitar solo. You've got the unison line, then it goes into harmony, and it breaks into this beautiful thing. Great strings on this, really dramatic. This is a sort of song, it's easy as good as your Beth by Kiss or any of those other big ballad hits, but whether ever it got any traction that way, I doubt it. And then the side one of the original vinyl finish was the title track. And obviously that's an all-time classic. So this uses the Gallop from Achilles' Last Stand by Zeppelin. But more metal, obviously, great F-sharp riff. Again, like I was saying before, really good sort of use of parts. You've got the main riff and then Schenker's down, little thirds over the top. And when it breaks in the verse, Raymond plays that lush Hammond organ keyboard pad, which is really good. And then I noticed this time, listening on the chorus, it's like they've tracked in some extra guitar chords with a pretty clean distortion of the A major, bow, then the sus4, B, bow, bow, G, bow, back to B, and it kind of sits just on top of the mix a little bit. And again, it's just using that layering process of parts that you wouldn't immediately know was there, but it's giving the song a lift. Incredible guitar work by Schenker, his outro solo, and this is one of my favourites of all time. Yeah, it's phenomenal. The guy, I've talked about Schenker before, so I'll not go on about it loads, but basically the guy was making massive inroads in rock guitar soloing in the time immediately before Van Halen, alongside his countryman Uli John Roth. So that ends side one. The album's 36 minutes and 51, 8 tracks, just sips by. So side two opens with probably the least known track on the album, which is Getting Ready. And every time I hear this track, I start to enjoy it more. It's just a really simple, straight ahead rock. It's quite weird. It's kind of got a verse, and then the chorus is the same progression of the verse. It actually has 3 verses and choruses with a kind of Getting Ready refrain before the middle section, which kind of is a little breakdown solo with quite interesting effect on, pretty slight, and then it comes back out. But it's a nice track. It's got acoustics tracked in again, really good vocal harmonies, a nice vocal performance from Phil Mogg. I would say Andy Parker does good performance on the album. Obviously, his drumming's not as prevalent as on the album before and after, but Parker's got a really good groove and he's the right drummer for UFO. Obviously, Way is fantastic as well. But yeah, I like this track. I mean, it's easy a good 6, 7 out of 10 track. It'd probably been better if side 2 had opened with a stronger song. Or I think in the next track is their cover of Alone Again or By Love, which is a track I like, and they do a good version of the cover. Schenker plays some lovely acoustics, lovely harmonies, lovely string arrangement, lovely harmony solo, 3 minutes long, but some were like, oh, maybe it would have been better to come up with some kind of meaty rock, like a Mother Mary type of track, or Reasons Love, or that kind of track to open side 2 and then have it getting better. But I like the track. Then you've got Electric Phase, real deep cut. This actually saw them play us live in '98. Really, really good use of guitars on this. So you've got the main riff, and then Schenker's kind of putting these little single notes over the top, and then a slide in it as well. And these bits are kind of interplayed depending where it is in the song to build a section. There might be a few strings in this. He does a cool Mixolydian kind of solo a la Mother Mary on this. It's a really cool grinding riff. It's quite a kind of sexy riff, this. And it works. And then it finishes with Love to Love, the all-time classic UFO ballad. So the intro to this, actually, I think Schenker recorded this on his little reel-to-reel at home. And then, because the performance was good enough, I thought, we're not going to recreate this. The recording was flown in. So when you fly in the recording on reel-to-reel, what happens is you've got the reel-to-reel, the original recording, then you make, that's either the slave reel, you make a slave reel, and you record it onto a tape, you bounce it over, as it were, onto, because big recordings are on 2-inch tape, and Mark Schenker's was probably like 1/4 inch. And then that would be cut or edited into the front of the big recording, for want of a better expression. Obviously, it would just all be done digitally now, but that's what I think happened. And then you've got the great Paul Grayman figure on a Fender Rhodes, and then the riffing comes in, and then it's got that top bar of 7, bar of 6, with the thirds, dun, 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 which gives a very European sound. then breaking into 3/4 and doing a real folksy. That's essentially, this is a folk song really. When it goes into the 3/4, it's got a proper folk feel. And Phil Mogg's lyrics and vocals, he's doing that sort of plaintive, wondering type of lyric, great lead break in it. And then when I was listening to it before, you got that fantastic end section. You kind of forget how powerful it is when the strings come in and the big guitars. It's absolutely epic, and it's a masterpiece of construction. Again, you've got to hand it to the band, for writing it. I think Schenker and Mark, maybe Way writes some of this, not sure. But obviously Ron Neverson has been able to take this song and build it into something. And it's one of the great production jobs, this, sonically, but I think it's really good. But I think Neverson, the key thing he's done is bringing other parts, bringing the strings and position all these elements to lift the UFO sound and make it something more. This album did really well from the tour. Obviously, we know Schenker left the tour and he came back and they did Obsession. They should have been bigger, but it's just one of those things. But great record. It's a 9 out of 10. I think, like I say, the Getting Better, Getting Ready, Sorry, and Alone Again all kind of just take it down a little bit, but 6 of the tracks are absolute bellers, and there's not a lot of albums can say that. Okay, cheers, thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you again. Thanks.